Inside America's Boardrooms, the informational show for board members and corporate secretaries. Brought to you with knowledge partners NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC. Along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.
Welcome to this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, CEO of Boardroom Resources, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the show. Today we're going to talk about the future of board recruitment, and I have a guest who's certainly played in that space that's going to join me in talking about that. Let me introduce David Chun, who's the CEO of Equilar. David, welcome back.
Hey, TK, thank you so much for being back on the show.
Well, usually we're talking about comp, which
Yep.
is what your company is probably best known for, although you play a lot in other spaces, engagement and board communications, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the cool things that you're doing relative to boardroom recruitment too. But first of all, let's talk about board recruitment. There's debates constantly going on about what skill sets should be on the board. Probably the most current one is centered around cyber risk, and they want a technology person or an IT person. A lot of times that person comes, they may know IT, but they don't have the experience or the breadth in other areas. They haven't managed large groups of people. They haven't worked in financials. So this, I'm not a huge fan about this single skill set type of individuals. There's so much information today to help a board know what questions to ask and how to analyze that. But that seems to be the popular search right now. So when you look out there and see in yours, how do you feel about this trend and other trends that are going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, you point out the hot topic this year around boardrooms on recruiting is around cyber experts. And, you've had very notable hacks that have occurred, whether it's Target, Home Depot, and others. And, boards feel, hey, this is, the issue we need to address. But if you look over the last 10 or 15 years, when Sarbanes-Oxley was passed, you needed a whole set of audit experts. And then, Dodd-Frank passed, you needed the comp experts. And now we've had all the cyber issues. And I think at the end of the day, you definitely want to have board members who are not scared of technology, who understand technology, but like you pointed out, who know how to ask the right questions. And when you're bringing on a board member, he or she's going to be with that board on average at least 10 years. And so as we know, technology changes so fast. And what are the issues that are going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years? None of us are smart enough to be able to predict what's going to happen there. And so getting somebody who is a cyber expert isn't necessarily a bad thing, but you want to make sure you're getting somebody who is well-rounded to help with all the other boardroom issues that boards are facing beyond just cyber threats.
Yeah, and certainly we've seen a very positive influence by financial experts. But they're managing and overseeing a large part of what a board's supposed to do. This is one piece of risk, okay, that we're really talking about. A big piece, arguably,
absolutely.
But still, it's something. Well, that's a good segue into what I wanted to talk to you about as well, and that is your organization has been playing around with tools in the governance space to help people not only with board recruitment, but to understand how they compare to their peers, which I know you do a lot of work in. Talk a little bit about this new board resource tool that you've been working with, Board Edge. I had a chance to see a demo. It was very cool, and the use was very good. But I think our audience could benefit by just you explaining sort of why and how you developed it, and then what it can do as a tool for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first I want to thank my board for playing a big part in helping us think through where the opportunities were going forward. And it was literally last fall. And they're like, hey, this whole issue around board succession planning, recruitment, refreshment, big issue. This is even before Whole Foods proxy access. Once that happened, right, you look at what's happened with activist investors and, they're fighting for board seats, what recently happened here with DuPont, a lot of changes going on in the boardroom. And what we're finding, we went out and interviewed a number of our clients in the institutional investor community, the proxy voting groups at the major mutual funds and whatnot. And they're obviously voting on SAM pay, but the other big issue they're voting on is the election of board members. And we recognize that there was actually not that much data out there on one of the biggest decisions that shareholders are asked to vote upon. And so we were looking at the data that we were capturing on our end. Over the last 15 years, we've tracked which board members have served with each other, what roles they've had, what committees they've been on. Been tracking voting results and pay results. So we had all this great data that could help companies and investors objectively look at their board. How does our board look relative to our peer group, whether it's your compensation disclosed peer group, our market peer group, or any custom peer group that they want to look at. And that was something that really was eye-opening to us, is that when we were out talking with board members and asked them, well, how do you assess your board? How do you look at your board relative to everybody else? And there really weren't tools out there. And so that's the reason we launched Board Edge, is to help companies and help board members, corporate secretaries, advisors, to objectively look at a board and then ultimately help them find candidates to fill potential gaps in that board.
Well, the thing that intrigued me is, again, all the comparisons to the peer groups, whether I wanted to look at, again, like you said, age or tenure or whatever, or policies,
Yep.
or, it just seemed like a very valuable tool that if I was a director, obviously I'm not going to sit and look at that all the time,
Yep.
but I'm going to want an update on where we stand relative to this, particularly if I was going to get into shareholder engagement.
Yes.
It would be great to be able to share that kind of information on what we're doing on the governance side. And really in shareholder engagement, it's management's job to do the financials and do
Yep.
all that work with the engagement. The board really, in the engagement side, should be focusing on the governance issues. And this is where this would be a very valuable tool. So what have you seen so far in the people that have had a chance to use it and stuff? What's been their reaction?
Yeah, in terms of just using engagement as an example, some of our clients on the institutional investor community, they're using it to help prepare for their engagement meetings, just to know who am I sitting down with, and knowing that he or she sat on these other boards and relationships that they've had in the past. But what the most eye-opening thing that I think that feedback we've gotten when we showed this to board members or people who are around the boardroom was, when they see who we've identified, who they know based on other boards they've sat on. And oh yeah, I forgot about Bill, who used to sit on this other board, and then you click on Bill's profile and then seeing all the other people that Bill knows. And so what we're doing is opening up that whole set of relationships and contacts within their network that they have no idea even exists. And so what we're doing here on the board recruitment refreshment side is really bringing tools to help our clients be able to navigate and explore all these people within, literally within 1 or 2 degrees of their board.
Well, you can see where this would be very beneficial to mid-cap and small-cap companies who typically are not using search firms to vet candidates and whatever.
Yep.
And your 6 degrees or how many degrees of separation lets them know that this person on the board sits with this person, and you can do a background check in a way on doing that. So it becomes a very valuable tool, and I hear nothing but small companies saying about the challenge of getting good board members. This could be a very valuable tool for them.
Absolutely, and if you're using a top search firm like a Spencer Stewart or a Heidrick, you're going to they're going to play a very valuable role in helping manage that process. But even when candidates presented, to be able to do the background checks, so much of board recruitment and refreshment, so much is around chemistry, right? And making sure bringing the right person in who's independent enough, but yet is also going to be a good fit for that board. And this is a way for them to identify relationships within their network to be able to get independent reference checks on potential candidates.
Yeah, it's always surprised me that so many investors groups sometimes put emphasis on the matrix. Let me see the matrix. I want it in the proxy. I want it here. That ensures an effective board about as good as nothing, okay?
Yep.
I mean, it is about chemistry, and that's why board leadership, which we obviously spend a lot of time on this show talking about,
Yep.
that's why that becomes so important. There
Yep.
has to be somebody and a group of people that are looking at the chemistry of the board.
Yep.
And if you look at great companies, you're going to see a good board CEO relationship, and you're going to see a good board leadership in the form of forming an effective group that has good chemistry.
Exactly, exactly. So we're allowing boards to be able to do is reach out within their trusted network, people they've worked with in the past, they've served with in the past, to be able to get independent information on potential future candidates. And the other thing I wanted to point out is we are in discussions with a number of the board diversity groups to help their candidates be able to help them get more easily found on future board opportunities. So we're very excited about bringing that together too.
And this not only has existing board members,
Yeah.
but it also has a number of candidates that are
Yep.
non.
Exactly. So we have about 140,000 profiles in our system. So it's anyone who's been a public company board member or a Section 16 officer over the last 15 years. So just did a run this morning. We have 8,000 women in our database who have never, who are officers of public companies who have never been on a board. We have 100,000 profiles in our database of people who've never been on, who are not on a board today.
So how would somebody go about getting information on Board Edge?
Sure. Well, you can go to our website. We have information there, and happy to do demos of the products, and we sell it as a subscription just like our other products.
Okay. Well, this is David. First of all, thanks for taking the time to join us. It is something that I believe would be a valuable tool. Certainly, companies that are challenged with this should take a look at what you have, and again, appreciate the time that you spent. And that will conclude this edition of Inside America's Boardroom. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take a look at another critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.
Join us again next week for Inside America's Boardrooms. Brought to you with Knowledge Partners, NASDAQ, the Center for Audit Quality, and PwC, along with content contributors Equilar, Meridian Compensation Partners, Wilson Sonsini Goodrich and Rosati, R.R. Donnelly, and the Society of Corporate Secretaries and Governance Professionals.